Welcome to the UFOP Certification Training Program. Module 1. Introduction to UFOP. Module 1 is broken down into 5 individual sections. Part 1. History of the Utah Friends of Paleontology. Part 2. Mission and goals of UFOP. Part 3. Overview of the certification program. Part 4. Ethical standards of SVP and UFOP. Part 5. State and federal laws pertaining to paleontology. Part 1. History of the Utah Friends of Paleontology, from here on out known as UFOP. So what is UFOP? UFOP is a statewide, nonprofit volunteer organization dedicated to preserving Utah's fossil resources through public education and volunteer support of sponsoring institutions. UFOP was founded in 1991 as a nonprofit corporation operating under the charitable, educational, and scientific purposes of Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. It was organized under the guidance of the Office of the State Paleontologist, then at the Utah Division of State History and currently at the Utah Geological Survey, who serves as the official statewide UFOP advisor. UFOP consists of a statewide board of trustees and local chapters around the state. Local chapters operate under the guidance of a sponsoring institution, including museums, colleges and universities, or government agencies that conduct paleontological research. The current UFOP chapters include the Great Basin chapter, operated out of Salt Lake City and sponsored by the Utah Geological Survey and the Natural History Museum of Utah. The Uinta Basin chapter, operated out of Vernal and sponsored by the Utah Fieldhouse of Natural History State Park Museum. The Southwest chapter, operated out of St. George and sponsored by the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site at Johnson Farm. And the Gastonia chapter, operated out of Moab and sponsored by the Moab Field Office of the Bureau of Land Management. Part 2. UFOP's mission and goals. The objectives of the Utah Friends of Paleontology are 1. To promote popular interest in education in paleontology and related subjects. 2. Sponsor and encourage the formation and development of local chapter members throughout Utah, and to preserve and protect the paleontological resources of Utah for the mutual benefit and enjoyment of all. And 3. Encourage the involvement and support of local museums and educational institutions in paleontology. So why become a member? Individual chapters provide educational meetings, field trips, and opportunities to participate in volunteer work including laboratory preparation of fossils, field surveys and excavation projects, and educational programs for UFOP's professional advisors and other paleontological researchers at the sponsoring institution of UFOP's chapters. What is UFOP certification? Certification classes train UFOP members to assist paleontologists in a variety of ways. As a trained volunteer, you can participate in museum-sponsored digs, specimens preparation projects, and public outreach programs. Part 3. Overview of the certification program. The program consists of a series of courses, supervised fieldwork, and supervised laboratory work which will provide the participant with a comprehensive knowledge of the theories and techniques of paleontology, scientific excavation management, basic geology, and ethics in paleontology. There are 3 major components of the certification program: the laboratory modules, field training modules, and theory modules. The laboratory and field training modules comprise the practical training component of the certification program. They must be conducted in person at the sponsoring institution for which the UFOP member is a volunteer. For example, members of the Great Basin chapter participate in the training at the Natural History Museum of Utah for paleontology prep lab and field volunteers. This training is for museum volunteers who are not necessarily UFOP members, but it fulfills the UFOP certification practical training requirements. Specific standards and time requirements are by necessity dictated by the particular research program of the sponsoring institution. The theory modules consist of instruction in basic geology, paleontology, anatomy, and biological classification, designed to give the student a better understanding of the science in which they participate as a volunteer, laboratory, or field assistant. These classes have been taught sporadically over the last 2 decades by the UFOP chapter sponsoring institutions. In creating this online course, the theory modules portion of the certification program will be available for UFOP members to take at any time and at their own pace. Part 4. Ethical Standards of SVP and UFOP. In joining UFOP, individuals agree to the following statement of ethics. As a member, I will do what I can to further the cause of paleontology and the preservation of Utah's paleontological sites. I understand that the Utah Friends of Paleontology and its members comply with existing state and federal regulations governing the preservation of paleontological resources. The Utah Friends of Paleontology has attempted to set a standard code of ethics and conduct as a model for its organization and members. The purposes of the code are to enhance the science of paleontology, to preserve our prehistoric heritage, and to assure the quality and reputation of the efforts of the organization. Members are expected to uphold the ethical standards of UFOP, the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology, and the sponsoring institutions for which they volunteer, as well as comply with existing state and federal regulations governing the preservation of paleontological resources. Part 5. State and federal laws pertaining to paleontology. The state law protecting fossils in Utah is found in Section 508 of Title 79, Chapter 3 of the Utah Code Annotated 79-3-508. Before expending state funds or approving an undertaking, each agency shall A. Take into account the effect of the undertaking on a specimen that is included in or eligible for inclusion in the State Paleontological Register, and B. Allow the director or assigned staff a reasonable opportunity to comment regarding the undertaking or expenditure. The director or assigned staff shall advise on ways to maximize the amount of scientific, paleontological, and educational information recovered, in addition to the physical recovery of specimens and the reporting of paleontological information at current standards of scientific rigor. The federal law is the Paleontological Resources Preservation Act, which became law on March 30, 2009 as part of the Omnibus Public Land Management Act of 2009. This law provides for the management and protection of paleontological resources on federal land. The Paleontological Resources Preservation Act, known by its popular name, the PRPA, requires the Secretaries of the Interior and Agriculture to manage and protect paleontological resources on federal land using scientific principles and expertise. The PRPA includes specific provisions addressing management of these resources by the Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, the Bureau of Reclamation, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and the U.S. Forest Service of the Department of Agriculture. Consistent with existing policy, the PRPA also includes provisions allowing for casual or hobby collecting of common invertebrate and plant fossils without a permit on federal lands managed by the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service under certain conditions. Casual collecting is not allowed within the national parks or other lands managed by the National Park Service or lands administered by the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Bureau of Reclamation. We hope that you have enjoyed this training module and thank you for participating in the science and adventure of paleontology. For more information on UFOP, please visit our webpage at utahpaleo.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/utahpaleo or follow us on our Twitter account at utahpaleo. Thank you, and we'll see you on our next journey uncovering the past.